It's episode 8. Welcome back, everybody. We've got narrow gauge in the snow, we've got California high-speed rail, and we're going to talk about Alberta investing millions in its rail infrastructure.
This is Railroad Showcase.
In his recent State of the State address, incoming California Governor Newsom put the brakes on the California high-speed rail project.
The current project, as planned, would cost too much and respectfully take too long. There's been too little oversight and not enough transparency.
Many people, including news agencies, took this to mean the entire project was killed entirely. Headlines flatly stated the ultimate. Within hours of the speech, Newsom was clarifying and backpedaling.
Turns out he's not completely slamming the brakes on a bullet train to the Bay Area.
Yet Governor Newsom insists he is fully committed to building such a project. Some in the Bay Area believe the governor's new approach isn't derailing development.
Well, the idea is to keep the project going and to have the Central Valley connection from Bakersfield to Merced form a spine from which the rest of the system can grow.
A 520-mile high-speed rail system meant to take travelers from San Francisco to Los Angeles.
Via his Twitter feed, he said, "We're going to make high-speed rail a reality. We will continue our regional projects." The next day, President Trump wrote, "California has been forced to cancel the massive bullet train project after having spent and wasted billions of dollars. They owe the federal government $3.5 billion. We want that money back now. Whole project is a green disaster." Then Newsom said, "Fake news. We're building high-speed rail. This is California's money allocated by Congress for this project. We're not giving it back." About a week later, the president replied, "The failed fast train project in California, where the cost overruns are becoming world record setting, is hundreds of times more expensive than the desperately needed wall." And the rhetoric continues, both sides benefiting from the approval of their supporters. Let's take a look at the long history of this project. Commercial bullet trains were being built in Japan and Europe in the 60s and 70s. The San Francisco to Los Angeles air corridor had become one of the busiest flight paths in the world. In the early 1980s, the state government began studies to determine if a high-speed rail line would be feasible. 27 years ago, in December 1991, President Bush signed the federal Intermodal Surface Transportation Efficiency Act, known as ICE-T. It identified 5 high-speed corridors in America. The third designation was for California, linking San Diego and Los Angeles with San Francisco and Sacramento via the San Joaquin Valley. In 1993, California created the Intercity High-Speed Rail Commission. In 1996, Quentin Kopp and Jim Costa wrote legislation to create the reformed California High-Speed Rail Authority. Its mission was to begin new studies and evaluate actual costs. It took 8 years before a bond was put before the voters. In 2008, Proposition 1A for $10 billion of funding was on the ballot. One of the most high-profile supporters of high-speed rail was Governor Schwarzenegger.
But talking about leadership, we also want to be the leader in high-speed rail. And of course, there's many reasons why I feel so passionate about high-speed rail. I believe very strongly we should have high-speed rail all over the state of California and all over the United States, just like we did the freeways, building the freeways in the 40s and 50s, especially under Eisenhower, to build this whole network of freeways that worked so well and everyone is using now. We should do the same thing with high-speed rail.
The bill passed with the expectation that Phase 1 from San Francisco to LA would cost $34 billion. The modified business plan of 2012 indicated that the estimated cost would almost double that at $65 billion. but then suggested a blended alternative that would cost less and utilize more of the existing rail infrastructure. Supporters applauded the compromise as a means of getting high-speed trains running sooner. Detractors pointed out that this was not the all-new comprehensive system that they had been promised. In 2015, the official groundbreaking ceremony took place in Fresno, where construction was due to begin. Some agreed that starting at the midpoint of the line was logical. Others pointed out that funding was only in place to cover the least populous section of the route. This gave rise to jokes about the train to nowhere. In 2017, Quentin Kopp, one of the original designers of the High-Speed Rail Authority, as well as its chairman, showed his opposition to the modified plans by filing suit against the state to end a project he felt was now misguided.
Crime to sell bonds and encumber the taxpayers of California at a time when this is no longer high-speed rail.
What was likely the final blow to the current plan came at the end of 2018 when a required report by the state auditor gave a scathing assessment of the mismanagement and poor organization of the project from top to bottom. The report said, unmitigated risks have contributed to $600 million in cost overruns thus far for the 3 active Central Valley construction projects, with another $1.6 billion in additional costs needed to complete the projects. The report also said that the authority cannot demonstrate that the large amounts it has spent on its contracts have been necessary or appropriate. In the understated language of bureaucratic correspondence, this is strong condemnation. Early in 2019, outgoing Governor Jerry Brown, the project's greatest advocate, left office. As stated in the outset, Governor Newsom made it clear that California high-speed rail would not continue with the same plan it had been working on in the last several years. The new line is expected to be completed from Merced to Bakersfield, which Newsom feels would sufficiently satisfy the terms of the federal funding. It would connect to existing transit systems on either end. It is significant that Newsom didn't say the train would never reach San Francisco and LA. He just indicated that the current plan would be set aside. Some have speculated that the plan of starting the project in the middle with only partial funding in place was a strategic decision to better ensure commencement of construction, then gambling that support could be found later for the exponentially higher construction costs at the urban ends of the line once an operational center section was complete.
So they're going to finish the section they've started.
Yes, they've said that they are definitely going to finish the section between Merced and Bakersfield. And if they don't, then they're going to have to give back $3.5 billion to the federal government because they haven't met the requirements of those funds.
But it doesn't even reach the population bases they were originally supposed to.
Right. So they saw that the current plan and the political compromises made to come up with that plan just weren't going to work. I mean, everybody knows that a bullet train running just in the San Joaquin Valley doesn't make any sense at all. I'm guessing that the negotiations slate is being wiped clean and that they will start from scratch again and find a different way forward.
So, is there ever going to be high-speed rail in California?
Probably, but not anytime soon.
So then the ultimate question, should high-speed rail even exist in California?
Well, this project has given ammunition for just about everyone's argument. So you've got the folks over here who say that only a government project could build a project like this. That high-speed rail in 21st century American cities simply would not be possible with the legal and environmental requirements involved without public involvement. And this project seems to have been proven that those hurdles are huge, and they've run into all kinds of legal problems because of people trying to stop the project. So that gives credence to this argument. And you've got the other folks over here who say that project like this should all be done in the private sector and that the government can't be trusted with something this big. And California's own auditor just submitted a report that really gives a lot of credence to those arguments, because right now the project is a mess. In the end, here's what I know. Any transportation system that could get people from downtown San Francisco to the heart of Los Angeles in 3 hours easily would be a very attractive system. I-5 is getting more clogged up by the day. The hassle of getting in and out of the airports is getting worse every day, and it would be nice to just boom, boom, get from one place to another that quickly and end up right downtown where you actually probably want to be. So, should California high-speed rail be finished with public funds? Should it be privatized? Or should they just dynamite the whole thing and not do it at all? You tell us. Leave a comment. High-speed rail in America. Thumbs up, thumbs down. On February 16th and 17th, the Durango and Silverton had their annual Winter Photographers Trains, which featured the Southern Pacific Narrow Gauge number 18. We were honored to get a quick message from Georgetown Loop's Jeff Badger and Roaring Camp's Phil Reeder.
Howdy folks, Jeff Badger, Phil Reeder reporting live from Durango, Colorado. It is Sunday, the 17th I believe it is. First train out for the photographer special here, 476 on the head end. Yesterday we rode behind the Slim Princess. What a wonderful ride that was. Bit cold, bit snowy, but a fun time was had by all. Anyhow, Phil and Jeff signing out. See you later.
A couple days prior to the run, Daniel Frauenhoff caught some bright and chilly footage of 476 running a flanger to clear the rails of snow. Steve Clark went monochrome to capture a vintage feel of the Slim Princess on the turntable and of their trip in the Goose.
The Premier of Alberta, Canada, has announced that the province will be spending $3.7 billion to ship crude oil to market. For years, the plans for pipelines to be built have been up in the air, but with the massive price gap, their oil sometimes selling for $14 a barrel to the US's $50, they feel their hands are forced to action. Their plan involves contracts with both Canadian National and Canadian Pacific, with the $3.7 billion going towards the leasing of 4,400 tanker cars, as well as the facilities to handle them. The province is anticipating a return in their investment of around $2.2 billion.
In 1956, it was called the Orange Empire Trolley Museum. In 1975, it merged with another group and was renamed the Orange Empire Railway Museum. Now, this active group in Paris, California, is called the Southern California Railway Museum. Some folks are in support, others don't want things to change. Ideas for a new logo to go along with a marketing campaign are being floated on social media.
Every death due to trespassing is preventable. This week, the FRA presented its first national strategy to prevent trespassing on railroad property to Congress. The agency did a 4-year examination of trespasser deaths and determined the top 10 counties in the country where non-suicidal fatalities occur. From November 2013 to October 2017, over 4,000 people died while trespassing in the United States. They hope to use this data to help bring awareness to the communities and work with partners in doing all possible to save lives. The rail tour company, Rocky Mountaineer, was just named as a top company in the annual British Columbia's Top Companies competition, organized by MediaCorp Canada. Winners are selected based on 8 criteria, such as its workspace and benefits compared to other organizations in its field. The RAVENGLASS and Eskdale Railway in Cumbria, England, also received an award recently. The Coyley Locomotive Engineering Award, presented at the Heritage Railway Association dinner for their rebuilding of the train from Spain, a 15-inch gauge Krauss-built locomotive. Intermodal is still on an upward trend, and even Walmart is testing their new, internally designed model of containers. The company cited that less flexibility and fewer options in shipping due to the rise of PSR was a reason for taking direct control of the containers.
So I found a series of photographs from Robert Jordan. Wait till you see these. This guy is a magician with a camera. He caught these images last month in the town of Eagle, Wisconsin, on the Wisconsin and Southern. The road plows had left a berm of snow on the tracks. He caught just the right moment with just the right lighting. So, back in the day, I loved shooting with Fujifilm and Kodachrome, but the reality is there's no way you could have gotten low-light images like that with Kodachrome 64. It wouldn't have been possible. These new cameras are amazing, and Robert did a fantastic job with these pictures.
Yeah, those pictures really are stunning. You know, though, on the other side of the planet, it is summertime in Australia. So electric trains have been around since electricity was first harnessed. Sometimes, though, someone will take an older idea and add a new twist. That's what Tim Elderton of the Byron Bay Railroad Company did. He took their 2-car 600 class rail motor set and converted it to run completely off of solar power. While the solar panels on its roof aren't enough to power the train alone, its 77 kilowatt-hour battery bank can stay charged with the help of regenerative charging and a larger solar array at its station, allowing it to run exclusively off of solar energy. While its battery pack is only around the same size of some electric cars, with its regenerative braking, it can make its 2-mile run 10 to 15 times on a charge.
All right, that's it for episode 8. Thank you for tuning in, and for you Gold and Silver Spike members, we appreciate your support immensely. We would love to hear what you guys are going to be doing this summer. We are going to be around at several different locations, mostly here in the West, but we're going to be all over the place. Write to us. Let us know what you're planning on doing this summer. What are the big events that you want to enjoy?
Are you guys going to be at Promontory? If you are, let us know. If enough of our crowd is going to be there, we might have a Railroad Showcase mixer.
And in the meantime, keep your hand on the throttle and your eye on the rail.